Hi there, if you didn't already know, Amazon actually had a really great return policy for Kindle books. If you bought a book, you had 7 full days to return it for a full refund. This made buying Kindle books basically risk-free. Recently though, a TikTok trend is causing Amazon to rethink their return policy. What people have been doing is they're buying books, reading them, and then returning it within 7 days for a full refund. Now, normally when people abuse a return policy, their Amazon account gets flagged and they can't make returns for a little while. But with this, on TikTok, there were too many people abusing the system where authors were really losing a lot of money. There were a lot of authors losing their source of income and way to make a living. It was a really big deal when this trend took off. Basically what happens is when you sell a book as an author on Amazon, you get a percentage of the sale. And every time you sell a book, Amazon also charges you through the percentage a small delivery fee to get your book onto people's Kindles or their devices. It's called a digital delivery fee. Now, when a reader decides to make a return, the author is forced to forfeit the commission they made on the sale, but one thing that they are still charged is that delivery fee. So when you make a return on Amazon, the author is actually losing a very small amount of money every single time. And with this TikTok trend, a lot of people were doing this return abuse and authors were losing a lot of money. Now, even though this delivery fee is really small at the end of the day, when you have several people in the masses doing it, it really impacts their bottom line. There were some authors even reporting a negative balance in their publishing account, which is absolutely ridiculous to think about. If you depend on book sales as your way of making money, this is a big deal. Now look, every author was not experiencing this mass abuse that I'm talking about, but still the fact that even some authors experienced this is a very big sign that there's something wrong with the system. And because of this, a lot of authors banded together and started petitioning Amazon to change the policy, and they did. Last week, Amazon announced that sometime this year, we're going to see a new policy take effect. Basically, if you read a Kindle book for more than 10% of the book, you will no longer be able to make a return without contacting customer service for the return. If you read less than 10% of the book and it's still within 7 days, you can make the return like normal. Now for authors, this is a huge win for the policy to be changed in their favor, but for everyday Kindle readers, this may seem like a really unfortunate thing where a small amount of people were abusing the system and now a change is being made for everyone who uses a Kindle or reads Kindle books. That's kind of annoying. This whole return policy update has got me thinking, and there are 2 really main things I want to talk about. The first is my general thoughts on book piracy and downloading illegal books and how that fits into all of this. And then second, I consider myself a very regular Kindle reader, but I'm also a self-published author, so I have a very unique perspective on both sides of the equation, and I want to share my thoughts from that too. Now the first thing I want to talk about is book pirating and getting books for free through unethical ways. Now, full disclosure, I completely understand the reasoning of why people choose to do this. If you are strapped for money and you can't afford books or software, getting them for free through websites online is a very tempting solution to help you get ahead. Growing up, I did not have much disposable income until I got my own job and started earning it myself, so I completely resonate with this. But in today's world, I really want to challenge this idea. We live in a world where literally everything can be accessed for free in ethical ways. For example, if you're getting non-fiction books, you can easily get a lot of that information through Google or YouTube by doing some searching around. Everything is for free on the internet. If you look hard enough in terms of information, there's no reason why you have to pirate a book when you can just do some hard work and get that same information for free on the internet. Secondly, if you're getting software for free like apps and stuff like that, we also live in a world now where a ton of apps have free versions of them now, or there are alternative tools that you can use that may not be as fancy but do the same thing. Whereas before, there were only a few apps that accomplish some very specific tasks. So we live in a world now where there are free tools tools and free information available for everybody, it's no longer an excuse that you can't afford things, so you choose to get them illegally. When you buy a nonfiction book, what you're paying for is the organization of that information and the thoughts of the author being compiled together into one book. When you buy a fiction book, you are paying for entertainment. For both of those scenarios, the author does deserve to be compensated for what they're providing you. I'm a big believer for paying for things that provide me value, even in the slightest way. If I buy a book that only gives me one new idea, I am more than okay for paying for that book. Same thing for entertainment. If I pay for something that was kind of meh, but it still entertained me in the slightest way, it was worth paying for rather than stealing it. The only times I actually return anything is if I buy a book, for example, and within the first few minutes, I immediately tell I'm not a fan of the style or the information, so I return it for a refund. But if I read a book, even for a few chapters, and I'm finding it to be okay, but not what I expected, I still keep the book because I got something out of it. It is worth paying for. When it comes to getting books for free through unethical websites, that's something I just would not consider doing personally. It's like the equivalent of going into a bookstore and walking out with a copy of a book without paying for it. It just is stealing at the end of the day. And for books especially, you can get most books for free through a local library or even lending it through a friend or anything like that. It just does not work anymore in terms of pirating books. The reasons just aren't there, in my opinion. Now that I've shared my thoughts on piracy and what I think about getting books in unethical ways, I want to shift focus to this new Kindle return policy and what my thoughts are on that. Like I mentioned earlier, I am an avid Kindle reader. I read books on my Kindle every single week. It's something I love to do. But on the other side, I am also an author. I have a short book published titled Supercharge Your Reading. It's all about ways to use your Kindle to read more books and learn more from how you read it. Link for that book right now down below in the description if you want to check it out. I'm also publishing a new book soon, so I am very well versed in self-publishing on Amazon, and luckily I have not been the victim of masses of people getting my book and returning it, but I've definitely experienced people returning my book, and I know what it feels like to see that negative balance come up on my publishing account. Now, even as a Kindle reader myself, I am very supportive of this new policy, even though it's really designed for authors. As a Kindle reader, this really does not change my workflow too much. If I do need to return a book, it's almost always within the first few pages of reading it and within the first few days of picking it up. I never have had a situation where I need to return a book when I'm halfway through or something like that. And honestly speaking, if there was ever a situation like that, I could still do it. I just have to contact Amazon support and talk to somebody and have them process my return instead of being able to do it all on my own. In my eyes, this new return policy is really designed to increase the friction involved with returning books, which will really help stop the book return abusers from continuing this practice of returning books that they're actually reading. Having to actually contact someone and talk to a real person to process a return is just enough friction to stop people from probably doing this crazy scheme that's been going on for the past several months. And I really do think it's a benefit rather than a harm for everybody involved. I know I have some very strong opinions about this topic. I really want to hear what you have to say on this new return policy. Are you upset that you can't return books past 10% without talking to somebody? Leave a comment down below and also share your thoughts on book piracy while you're at it. And if you enjoyed this video and you're on the fence of buying a Kindle or e-reader, I have a whole video that's talking about iPads versus Kindles and why I think it's better to read Kindle books on an actual Kindle than using the Kindle app on your phone or iPad. Link for that on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.